So, week 2 matchups review. So, what we had here was a couple of our top matchups from last week, which was Brian versus the Beaties, and then Tommy versus me. Out of the two, the Beaties ended up beating Brian. I ended up having a comeback victory against Tommy to pull off the W. I think we had Brian beating the Beaties, but we all had me beating Tommy. Anything that stands out between those two matchups?
No, I mean, the Beaties got huge days from Gurley, Diggs, McCaffrey, Cooks, Hogan. Like, they kind of went off everywhere. So it's uphill battle from the start for Wortman. And then what was the other one?
Me versus Tommy.
You versus Tommy. Kind of ended up being a pretty limp dick fucking matchup, to be honest. Injured Aaron Rodgers going for Tommy. He got a nice day out of Hopkins, but then after that, he didn't get really huge days from anybody. Running backs kind of let him down a little bit. So, and consistent across the board for you. Ryan obviously picked it up a little bit, and then the wide receivers combined for some decent numbers. Again, Allen Robinson had a nice game. He's turned out to be a pretty solid number one for Chicago, despite Trubisky being pretty fucking awful.
Yeah, he can support one good wide receiver, just like Ryan Tannehill, one wide receiver, but that's fine if it's Allen Robinson. Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate that Brian was going against the Beaties, because had he been going against a few other players this past weekend, he would have pulled off a W, but the Beaties, busted a nut. They had a lot of players go off. I didn't have any guys that really scored any touchdowns, but I did get lucky that Matt Ryan had 2 random rushing touchdowns, which won't happen again, probably for the rest of the season, and I pulled off a lucky win against Tommy. Speaking of the limp dick matchup of the week, Sean versus Nick, they totaled for the same amount of points that the Beaties put up by themselves.
This thing lived up to the billing.
Yeah, pretty much we hit the nail on the head in regards to the limp dick matchup. I love you, Nick, but it's not looking good in regards to your team.
The receiver situation is just real bad.
He needed DJ to really help Zeke carry the team. So far, he hasn't. So far, it's a questionable situation, and if his wide receivers don't score a touchdown, it's going to be trouble on a week-in, week-out basis. So Sean actually had a few good performances between Lockett, Golden Tate, Jimmy Graham. Nothing really stands out as a blow-up game, but again, oh no, that's right. It shows that Mike Wallace is on IR and got 0 points, but he actually got hurt during the game. That's a second game where Sean gets a 0 from Mike Wallace, so who knows? He could be in the starting lineup again next week.
Yeah, go for the trifecta.
Exactly, you might as well. The other matchups were you versus Kevin, and then Timmy versus Scotty. We'll go over you versus Kevin first, and that was an unfortunate event because your team went off. Like if you were going against pretty much any other team besides Kevin and the Beaties, you would have won. And somehow Kevin, got some lucky touchdowns out of, who was it?
Ingram. He got a late one from Ingram.
And Saquon caught 14 balls, so that's what did you in right there.
It did on the Sunday night game. I actually left 10 points on the bench. About 10 minutes before game time, I put in Eckler for Fuller. I was a little worried about Fuller's hamstring, and that cost me about 10, but I'm glad it didn't cost me the win because 10 more was still not going to do it. Yeah, I mean, my Kansas City Chiefs offense is fucking humming, man. This thing is cruising. 50, 64, plus Tyreek's 18. Another fucking 80-point week from my 3 Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. Seems a little bit sustainable, but, we'll see. Galladay coming along for me, too, so we'll see.
Well, give me a percentage on how sustainable it could be on a weekly basis.
It starts and ends with Mahomes. They got some tougher matchups coming up at Denver, Jacksonville, but then they get like New England, Cincy, Cleveland, Arizona in there, Oakland, Baltimore. They do get the Rams, which isn't great. So sustainable at 80 points out of the three of them, probably not. But again, I think I said last week, like I think I can kind of start to expect like 60 points out of these three players, which is nice.
That matchup against Jacksonville is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they can hang some points on the big dogs.
You have the most explosive offense going against the most stout defense. That's going to be a fun one to watch right there. I was going to mention that earlier. I forgot. Didn't think they were going to play each other throughout the year. That's going to be fun. All right, so Timmy versus Scotty. I mean, Timmy's team it surprised me. I knew his team was going to, rely on Kamara and rely on Gordon, but his other players are also showing up. I mean, I thought Thielen was going to give up work to Diggs. He's still producing. Kenyon Drake, a nice 15 points. But Ben Roethlisberger going off for almost 40 points really puts his team up there as a top 2, top 3 team with the league.
He dropped a gorgasm of extreme intensity this week against Scotty.
Yeah, it was ugly for Scott. All right, so far, when it comes to our picks, we got me and Brian sitting at 6-4, Doug 5-5. The top performance this past week was Kevin, scoring 173.9 points, and Nick coming in with a limp dick of 65.9. So the current standings right now has it as Timmy first, Kevin, me, the Beaties. Those are the top 4. Doug comes in at number 5, followed by Tommy, Sean, and Brian. Rounding out the top 10 will be Scotty and Nick. Is there anything with the current standings that you see that will change much or actually stands out as a surprise to you?
Well, I don't know that this league has ever seen, nor will ever see, all of the Clovelands participating in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see who can keep it going and who's going to kind of fall back to the pack. Brian's team's pretty good, but he's at 0-2, so that's going to be a challenge, kind of an uphill battle. And hoping I can kind of continue to compete for that 3-4 hole, because I got a team that seems like it's up and coming. I'd like to contend for another title.
Yeah, this is the first time that Timmy's team has ever been in first place, ever.
Good for the kid. He found the mouse pad.
He somehow he found a will and a way to come in first place so far. I think you're right about Brian's team. He's had 2 tough matchups. He's going to be up in the running for one of the top 4 spots when the season ends. So those are only 2 things that I really have to say about that. Okay. Moving on to Week 3 matchups. This is kind of a week. Can I say that? A week?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that.
What would you say?
I'd just avoid the topic altogether.
Done. Where the top matchups are Timmy versus Tommy, and then actually El Guapo going against Mr. Fresh. Those are the top 2. Any insights in regards to those top matchups?
I'll start with Tommy and Timmy. Tommy's got a lot of red Qs on his team. Never what you like to see when you pull up the matchup. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. Rodgers, his team kind of relies on Rodgers, and you just don't know what you're going to get out of him, how healthy he is. Timmy, on the other hand, is humming right along. Got to think he kind of continues to produce. He's got Gordon against the Rams. We documented how hard it is to throw on the outside against the Rams. You think Melvin would get a huge workload. Kamara, obviously, we know. Stafford against that atrocious New England secondary. Thielen in Buffalo. T.Y. against Philadelphia, who's been kind of getting gashed a little bit. So I'm gonna go Team Gorgasm here pretty handily. I'll say 138 to 109.
138 to 109. Yeah, I think it's going to go somewhere around there. Like we said, Timmy's team is one of the top teams in the league. As long as they all stay healthy, I think Timmy's going to find himself as being one of the favorites week in and week out. I mean, Tommy's team can surprise, but when you're relying on touchdowns from Nelson Aguilar and Austin Severian Jenkins on a week in and week out basis, that's not a good sign. I gotta agree. I'm going with Timmy in regards to this matchup. So moving on to our matchup. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
Go ahead.
I don't think the projected points do this matchup justice. I think this is going to be a closer match than what it's projecting to be. Right now, it has me at 130, has you at around 110. But as you said, in regards to the Chiefs, they're producing on everyone. Going against the San Francisco 49ers, they don't really have that great of a defense. And the Chiefs are going to have their home opener. I think they go off. I think they all have a pretty good game. Maybe not 80 points, but I mean, even if they put together 70 points, 65 points, that's still a damn good game for the trifecta. When it comes to the other positions, my team is a little bit more stable in regards to the running back position, in regards to the remaining wide receivers. I think I'm going to pull off the win, but I don't think it's going to be based off of what the projected totals are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, Stite has me as a 23-point dog, and all I can say is you take those points and you sleep like a fucking baby because this thing's going to be tight. I'm saying it right now. I'm going to get 90 from my Kansas City trio. Interested to see – so Baltimore's got a pretty good run D, and that's where my boy Lindsey's going. Interesting to see if he's able to produce kind of at the same clip as he has been against a pretty stout run D. Galladay gets New England. He's been a target monster, and New England secondary has been very bad. Fuller, favorite target of Deshaun Watson. Cowboys defense going to Seattle, where we already documented the offensive line is just horrific. So I probably won't bet against myself all year, and I'm not going to start here. So I'm taking me probably by about 8 points.
Oof. I would have said maybe like 2 points if you're going to take yourself, but he goes with 8. All right. Okay. All right, so the Limtic matchup, and the only reason why I have this as the Limtic matchup is because both these teams are the only 0-2 teams so far in the league. So we got Brian going against Nick. Brian's going to win this matchup. I mean, we already went over. He's got one of the top, 2-3 teams in the league. Nick, he's made some strides, but it's at the bottom. I don't think this is going to be close. I don't think there needs to be much analysis in regards to this matchup.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. All right, so Kevin versus Sean and the Beaties versus Scotty are the remaining couple matchups. I think these are a couple matchups that are heavy favorites going against heavy dogs. Kevin's got, a 2-0 team going against Sean. Pull up that matchup. Do you already have it pulled up or want to go into it?
So,
yeah, go ahead.
There is indeed still a Mike Wallace sighting in Shauno's starting lineup.
That doesn't surprise me.
Not great. He's got Tom Brady. Ajayi probably not going to play this week, so he may want to make a move there. It kind of comes down to is Odell Beckham going to start to produce? So I'm going to say no because Eli Manning has a fucking wet pool noodle for an arm. So I'm going to go Cloveland's pretty handily here.
Yeah, I mean, even if OBJ does get open, they're going against the Houston defense. I think Clowney's going to be back. Watt's playing, and the O-line over there, they're like a turnstile. So not expecting a huge game or to carry Sean's team. And if he's not going to carry him, then I don't see how he beats the Clovelands. So the next one was the Beaties versus Scotty. Do you have that one up?
I do. Scotty trotting out a bunch of Jay's fucking scrap heap. So that's cool. Deion Lewis, Carlos Hyde, their running backs are just complete junk. Deion Lewis specifically at Jacksonville, not great. Some bright spots. He's got Deshaun Jackson. He's had a nice, first couple of games and gets Pittsburgh, who's been struggling. Breida, you mentioned, leads the league in rushing, gets Kansas City, who hasn't been great against the run. But then there's the guy, Demaryius Thomas, Randall Cobb, not super. On the other side for the Beaties, just some hammers and Gronk, Diggs, Kirky, Christian McCaffrey's been catching a ton of balls. Gurley, obviously. So I'll go Beaties, maybe a little closer than we think. Let's say 129 to 118.
Well, I got to disagree on a couple things you said about Deion Lewis and Carlos Hyde. I think they're better players than you actually say. But, of course, that's me and trading away
You're-
those players.
you-
Yeah,
you
exactly.
say that.
So I'm not going to go into it more than that. I think they're better players, but they do not have great matchups going against the Jets defense and also the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Scotty's wide receivers are actually pretty okay. Devontae Adams, Demaryius Thomas. I know we just shit all over Demaryius Thomas before, but can he be a low-end wide receiver too? Okay. Randall Cobb, low-end wide receiver too? Okay. I mean, Jordan Reed, if he stays healthy, mid-range, tight end 1. Matt Breita's, doing well. Deshaun Jackson's going to have some blow-up games. With all that said, Scotty's going to lose because the Beaties have a pretty stacked team. When you look at Gronk, Diggs, Gurley, McCaffrey, I mean, the list goes on. So they'll win this matchup as well. And I think that pretty much, actually, who do you think is going to be the best performer this week, and who do you think is going to be the worst performer this week?
Best performer is going to be Philip Lindsay. Worst performer is going to be Eli Manning.
I think you're going to say Eli Manning a lot of weeks.
Yep, every week. If you ask me that question, that's my answer.
Yeah, I'll just put it in there every single week. I think best performance. I can name plenty of players, but Todd Gurley's got to be up there because he's a horse. Worst performance, nothing really stands out all too much. Who the Jags going against this week? Oh, that's right, the Titans. Everyone on the Titans. Deion Lewis, Derrick Henry, their wide receivers, everyone on that offense.
We didn't actually mention this. I'll touch on it quick. Mariota sucks. Like, he didn't play last week, and I think Blaine Gabbert played, and the Titans won. Like, dude, Mariota must suck so bad.
I don't know about that. Why do you think it's so like he literally couldn't grip the ball? That's why he didn't play.
Yeah, also because he sucks. And the coach was like, yeah, well, even though you can't hold it, even if you could hold it, you suck.
I think that's piss poor analysis, but I mean, we'll move on. I mean, well, I'll say this. I mean, he's a young quarterback. He's got new coaching staff. He was actually doing pretty okay against the Dolphins in the first half before he got hurt. He's got some weapons.
Pretty okay. That's a ringing endorsement. He was doing pretty fucking okay.
In the first game with the new offensive coordinator, yeah, he's not going to start off like lighting it up on fire, dude. I mean, even Pat Mahomes had a whole year to digest an Andy Reid offense before he went out there and started lighting it up. He didn't look that great last year when he started his one game at the end of the year, and he had another offseason.
He actually did look pretty good, but it's not. Don't blame me that Mahomes has a rocket arm and a better coach than Mariota.
I'll say this. Pat Mahomes will be the next Deshaun Watson. And by that, I do not mean a good thing. I think he'll have these blow-up games, and then you're going to have the Deshaun Watson that you're seeing right now.
Disagree. I think Pat Mahomes is Joe Montana. You can just cut the clip there.
And that's where we won't cut the clip. So next week, we're going to go over the same shit that we went over this week. Nothing crazy. Maybe we'll throw in a couple, board bets or something like that. I know I got a couple going against Doug, a couple against Brian. I think I'm looking pretty good in all my bets. But maybe we'll come up with a couple more next week. And thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys again.
Fuck off, Beats.